Did you know that Carlo Acutis' mother had a supernatural experience that foreshadowed her son's future as a saint? Antonia Salzano, a woman of deep faith, was visited in her dreams by Saint Francis of Assisi and by Carlo himself, in visions that revealed extraordinary and prophetic events. What's even more striking is that these revelations not only shaped Carlo's life but also confirmed what many of us still doubt, that holiness can be lived by anyone, at any time. What did these dreams reveal about Carlo's future? What made him so special that God sent such powerful signs to his mother? Get ready to be amazed. Antonia Salzano, Carlo Acutis' mother, had always been a woman of faith. She believed deeply in God and His providence. In her moments of prayer, something extraordinary began to happen: prophetic dreams. In these visions, she saw Saint Francis of Assisi and her son Carlo revealing future events. These were moments of spiritual intimacy, where the saints would appear to comfort and prepare Antonia for what was to come. Imagine what it must have been like for her, as a mother, to know that her son's future would be marked by something so grand. From a young age, Carlo had a special connection with spirituality and with the life of Saint Francis. He felt a deep affinity with the saint, a bond that went beyond mere respect, but a true identification with his teachings and way of life. Through her dreams, Antonia knew that Carlo's destiny was intertwined with that of Saint Francis of Assisi. And with unwavering faith, she trusted that God's plans would be revealed in due time. Carlo's journey would not only be one of devotion but also a testimony for future generations. Antonia's dreams served as a reminder that, often, God communicates with us in surprising ways. Through her constant prayer and fervent devotion, she received confirmation that her son's life would be a light for the Church and for Christians around the world. This leads us to reflect: how attentive are we to the messages God sends us? In our moments of prayer, can we also hear what He wants to tell us about our future? It's a thought to consider, as it seems that the answer is closer than we imagine. On October 12, 2024, Carlo Acutis will be canonized by the Catholic Church. The news spread quickly, touching the hearts of many young Christians around the world. Carlo, with his simple and devout life, became a modern example of holiness. His story reminds us that holiness is not something distant, reserved only for the great saints of history, but something accessible that can be lived in everyday life. He, who was a fervent devotee of the Eucharist and used technology to spread the faith, is a model for those who seek to live their faith authentically in the modern world. The canonization of Carlo Acutis is more than a simple recognition by the Church. It is proof that the Christian faith can and should be lived fully, even in today's times. In his life, Carlo sought simplicity and devotion in everything he did, and this is a lesson that resonates in our hearts today. How can we, in our daily lives, reflect this same devotion and simplicity, which were such defining characteristics of Carlo? What in our daily routines can be transformed by a more attentive approach to our faith? Carlo's canonization invites us to rethink how we live our spirituality. He used his passion for computers and his skill with technology to glorify God and spread the gospel. This example challenges us to think about how we can use our own talents and abilities to serve God and others. As we celebrate his canonization, we are called to reignite our commitment to the faith and reflect on how we can live a more devoted life, whether in our studies, work, or relationships. And it is here that Carlo's story begins to touch all of us, reminding us of the power of faith applied to our reality. Carlo Acutis was a brilliant example of how technology can be used to promote the Christian faith. Known as the patron saint of the Internet, Carlo not only used technology for entertainment but for something much deeper: to share Eucharistic miracles around the world. He created a website, which later became a powerful tool to educate young people about Eucharistic miracles, allowing faith to be accessed in a practical and modern way. He taught us that technology is not the enemy of spirituality, but a means to make it more accessible. The way Carlo used the Internet to share his love for Jesus Christ is something that resonates strongly today. In the world we live in, where technology is becoming increasingly prevalent, Carlo's example challenges us. How can we use digital tools to spread the gospel? Can we create content like videos and blogs that share our faith in a creative way, using the resources at our disposal? Imagine if all young Christians united to share their faith experiences authentically and inspiringly on social media. Carlo's legacy reminds us of the importance of living our faith authentically and accessibly. What if, instead of allowing digital tools to dominate our lives in a superficial way, we use them to create a positive impact? Carlo showed us that technology, when used with a divine purpose, can be a powerful ally in building a more spiritual society that is connected with God. He leaves us the lesson that our mission as Christians is to share the good news everywhere, even on digital platforms, with hearts full of faith and worship. Carlo Acutis, from a young age, lived with an unwavering commitment to faith. He followed in the footsteps of Saint Francis of Assisi, not only in his actions but also in his deep devotion and commitment to simplicity. In a world that values consumption and appearances, Carlo stood out through his life of voluntary poverty, seeking a direct relationship with God and others. He didn't need material wealth, for his greatest riches were his unshakable faith and his love for the Eucharist, which he considered the greatest treasure of his life. Carlo's life teaches us much about the power of simplicity and purity in our spiritual walk. Often, we lose ourselves in the pursuit of material possessions or status, but Carlo reminds us that the true value of life lies in our relationship with God. His love for the Eucharist and the way he dedicated his time to prayer and studying the Bible are clear examples of how we should live our faith daily. The simple practice of putting God first, as Carlo did, can completely transform the way we view the world and our mission within it. How can we imitate Carlo's life today, in such a fast-paced and materialistic world? Perhaps now is the time to stop and reflect on our own spiritual practices. What are we doing to nourish our souls and grow in our faith? Carlo's life calls us to seek true peace, which is not found in the things of this world, but in a life dedicated to prayer, service, and humility. By following his steps, we, too, can find our true vocation in the divine plan and reflect his light in the world. The miracles attributed to the intercession of Carlo Acutis are beginning to multiply as his fame for holiness grows. One of the most notable involves the healing of a young woman who was seriously ill. She had been diagnosed with a rare and incurable disease, but after prayers asking for Carlo's intercession, her condition began to improve in an inexplicable way. This miracle is just one of many, but it leads us to reflect on the power of prayer and faith, as Carlo demonstrated throughout his life. The belief that sincere prayer can move mountains and that the intercession of saints is real becomes more tangible as we witness these events. When we think of miracles, we often feel distant from such wonders, as though they are reserved for holy figures or historical events. But Carlo Acutis' life teaches us something important. Miracles are not just for the chosen ones, but can occur at any time, even in our everyday lives. Carlo's faith and devotion to prayer show us that the key to witnessing miracles lies in cultivating deep, unshakable faith. We don't need to be canonized saints to experience God's power in our lives. We need a pure heart and a willingness to trust. The healing miracle of this young woman is just one example of Carlo's intercession, but it calls us to deep reflection. Are we praying with the same faith and devotion? Are we fully surrendering to God, trusting His power to make the impossible possible? Carlo Acutis gives us a clear example of how to live a life of faith that, in turn, opens the doors for miracles to happen. He reminds us that, even in times of difficulty, prayer is our greatest ally, and the intercession of saints can be a powerful source of strength and grace. Although Carlo Acutis passed away at a young age, he left a legacy that continues to touch the hearts of millions. His life of faith, humility, and devotion has spread beyond his time and generation, inspiring young Christians around the world to live with a divine purpose. Carlo's legacy is not just in his actions, but in the way he fully gave himself to the mission of evangelizing through modern means. His example of living the faith in contemporary society is a beacon for all of us, showing that it is indeed possible to remain faithful to God while interacting with the world around us. In addition to being an example of faith, Carlo's legacy is also marked by his ability to transform technological tools into allies of evangelization. He did not see technology as a distraction, but as a powerful vehicle to spread the gospel and educate new generations. His website about Eucharistic miracles is proof of this, as it continues to inspire those seeking to deepen their faith, offering an accessible view of the miracles that happen every day around the world. This is how his legacy remains alive, not just in the memory of his holiness but in the impact it still has today. What can we learn from Carlo's legacy? How can we apply this example in our own lives, using our talents and resources to make a difference? Perhaps now is the time to reflect on how we are living our faith in today's world, and if we are using all the tools at our disposal to share the love of Christ. Carlo Acutis inspires us to be the missionaries of our time, bringing the light of the gospel in a creative way, just as he did, with the same faith and devotion that guided his life. His legacy is challenging us to act now. Carlo Acutis gave us a clear message: Holiness is not reserved for a small group of people, but it is within everyone's reach. He showed us that living a life of faith and devotion doesn't require great deeds or wealth, but rather the faithful use of the talents God has given us to serve others. Carlo used his love for computers and technology to spread the faith in an accessible and modern way, and that is something any of us can do. He challenges us to think, what talents has God given me, and how am I using them for the good of others? In today's world, many wonder how to live a meaningful life, especially in a scenario filled with distractions. The answer lies in doing what Carlo did, using the skills we have, whether in art, science, entrepreneurship, or any other field, to serve God and others. Holiness, as we saw in Carlo's life, is not something distant and unattainable, but a daily choice to live according to Christ's teachings. By doing so, we find a profound purpose that goes beyond our daily concerns. Carlo Acutis' funeral was a momentous event for all who knew him, but also for those who had heard his story of faith. During this event, something truly special happened, capturing the attention of many present. A clear sign that Carlo's life not only touched the hearts of those around him, but also that his mission on earth was far from over. Something extraordinary took place, a tangible testimony of his holiness, which was visible to all and further strengthened his position as an example of faith for the world. This event during Carlo's funeral reminds us that the presence of saints is not limited to the past. Their intercession and influence continue to act in our lives, even after their departure. When we witness something like this sign, we are challenged to reflect, how open are we to God's signs in our lives? And how can we recognize His divine presence, even in the most ordinary or challenging situations? Carlo's funeral was not just a farewell, but a reaffirmation that he continues with us, through the faith he spread. In a world that often seeks extraordinary signs, Carlo Acutis' life and the events during his funeral remind us that God's signs can be simple, yet powerful. How can we, in our own walk of faith, stay attentive to God's action? What can we learn from this experience and apply it to our daily lives? Perhaps the real message is that, even in times of mourning, faith can offer us signs of hope, showing that God never abandons us. Carlo's legacy lives on, and he continues to touch the lives of those who seek truth and faith. Carlo Acutis, as an example of accessible holiness, reminds us that we are all called to live with a greater purpose. No matter what our profession or situation is, we can always use our skills and talents to serve God and others. True greatness, as he teaches us, lies in living with a heart turned toward the common good and faith. Each of us has a mission, and holiness is the path to fulfilling it faithfully. It's not about being perfect, but about seeking perfection in God through every small action. Now that we know the life, example, and inspiration of Carlo Acutis, it's time to reflect on what we can do to apply these teachings in our own lives. Carlo didn't just leave us a legacy of faith, but he also gave us a clear example of how to live our spirituality in a practical and accessible way. So, what are you waiting for to follow his example? Pray for Carlo's intercession, ask him to intercede for you, help strengthen your faith, and guide you on your spiritual journey. Furthermore, if you want to go deeper into this faith journey, subscribe to the channel and join our community of believers who seek to grow spiritually. Together, we can walk in faith, prayer, and service to others. Carlo teaches us that, even in modern and challenging times, we can live faithfully, whether at work, in our families, or in our daily interactions. Now, it's your turn to act and apply the teachings he left behind. By subscribing, you will not only receive more content about living faith authentically, but also be part of a network of people committed to prayer, Bible study, and Christian witness. How about taking that step today? Don't put off until tomorrow what can be done now, and seek, like Carlo, to live a life of prayer, praise, and worship to God in every aspect of your life. Now that you know the story behind the apparitions that marked Carlo Acutis' life and his mother's, do you feel motivated to seek deeper faith? How about starting today by dedicating more time to prayer, Bible reading, and serving others? How can you apply these teachings to your daily life? Carlo's story challenges us to live with purpose and devotion, without waiting for extraordinary signs, because, as we've seen, even the greatest miracles can begin in the small actions of everyday life.